version of the download. For those of you that have been the last couple of years, thank you for coming back. We appreciate it. It's always a really fun night. We started this, Jen and I, a few years ago because we have so many. We're lucky enough to work with a lot of people who know each other and want to know each other. And so we're getting a lot of phone calls and emails for introductions and asking for different ways to meet and network people. And so we thought it'd be kind of a fun event to get people together, not to talk about real estate. We find that sometimes boring too. And talk about things that are kind of more in line with sort of the workspace, the economy, the kind of current events and whatnot. And so we've had, I think we started it with like 30 or 40 people a few years ago. We had about 100 RSVP tonight, which is really exciting. We have 5 awesome panelists. All of them are exciting. A lot of you called and said we really want to talk about video games and Wii, so we put that on there. And so I think we just want to say thank you to everyone for being here. We appreciate the panelists. Thank you guys for being here. We promise not to talk anything about real estate, but thanks for coming out tonight. Appreciate it.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jen Frisk. I don't know, did you introduce us or not? Okay. That's Ryan Harding. We're going to play a little game before we get started. We want this to be interactive, fun. The bar is going to stay open. If you need a break, just get up and go get another drink. You need one, Sully? So I want everyone to take out your phone rather than put it away, which is what used to happen in school. Does everybody have Instagram? Everybody? Does anyone not have Instagram? No Instagram in the back? Okay, we're going to have to work on that. You guys. That's true, but you worked at Snap and you're still loyal. Open your Instagram, please, if you know where it's located. Search for Office Created and click follow. It's super easy. And I have my phone, so I'm going to see who follows. Oh, I've got 3, 4. Hold on. I've only got 4. I've got 5, 6. Can we get some more? There's a lot of you in the room. Maybe some of you are already following. All right. Well, maybe some of you are trying to find Instagram, but...
In fairness, so we started this, we launched our Instagram feed a few months ago at a launch party back in November. Brookie over here, Brookie heads up and handles our social media. Matt is on our team as well. Business development. Chris is doing kind of everything. And so we are committed to kind of building something a little bit different, a little bit more innovative, a little bit more kind of tech enthusiast-like. And so with our Instagram feed and a number of other ways that you'll see coming out here over the next few months, we're going to try and sort of not only promote the brand, but really promote what a lot of our clients are doing and what we're having an opportunity to do with them. So it's cool and innovative and fun.
So thank you for the follow. Last year, many of you were here. We talked a lot about actually a lot of the same things that we're going to talk about tonight because they all seem to be relevant, from millennials and venture funding and how kind of people work in the workplace, which is as close to real estate as we're going to get. We talked a lot about the political climate. We talked about kind of new apps and the future of your business and what's kind of happening and how it's going to affect you. And this year, we kind of just have a different take on it. We have a lot of apps that some of you know, may not know. We have some new kind of industries. Some of you may not know what esports is. It's already exceeded the audience of Major League Baseball, and it's expected to exceed the audience of the NFL by 2022. So if you don't know, you're probably not under 35 because 79% of the audience is currently under 35. So get on it. And we've got a lot of other exciting companies up here too. I'm going to let the panelists introduce themselves, and we're excited that you guys are here, and we'll keep this short and hopefully interesting.
Hi everyone, I'm Rachel Devno, and I'm the head of tax at Ring.
Jason Ton, Finance Operations for Home Foods.
Good evening, my name is Marlon Whitley. I'm Senior Corporate Counsel at Wheatmaps.
Hi, I'm Tim Cowell. I'm the Director of Workplace Experience at Headspace.
Hi, I'm Solidan Lofgren, and I'm the Chief People Officer at Realty Mobile. So we are going to talk maybe a little bit about real estate.
That's okay.
That is true.
So we're going to start, if you were here last last year, you remember this was such a hot topic, but there have been a lot of discussion around millennials. There continue to be a lot of discussion around millennials and Gen Z. And we're just going to throw this out to whoever wants to answer first, but kind of what has been your experience with millennials? Do you see this changing in the future? And is there a qualitative difference between a millennial and a Gen Z employee? So,
I'll take it.
take it.
So I work for a completely millennial population. Our CEO is 32 and started it when she was 26. And I come from a background of human resources. I typically don't dress this way. I just wasn't sure how fancy we were going to get. So typically I'm wearing jeans and something else. But what I've identified is, we hear, because I'm on the people side, a lot of these judgments about millennials and about them being very much about themselves and entitled. And I have found it to be a little bit different than that. The best employee that I've ever had, and I've managed hundreds of people, is 25 years old. And she is dedicated and professional and has the emotional intelligence of someone that has lived for decades in the professional world. What I have identified on the HR side, for those of you that are managers and executives, or that you are overseeing a team of people that perhaps have millennials, is that they really would like customized mentoring and coaching. And what that really means is the same thing that all of us want. We want to have some clear expectations about the strategy of the company that we work for. We want to know what our role is about. And we want to have clarity about making a difference in what our path is. And I have found that by establishing those standards with the millennial population that I work for, that it's been quite successful. And they're incredible producers and really innovative. So we are in a fintech space, so we have both the engineering and developers and also the commercial real estate side of the business, as we offer a kind of a real estate crowdfunding platform, so it's very new and different. In terms of the Z generation, I don't know if they're quite old enough to work yet, because I think the oldest level is 19, but I do have Z level children. And I will say the differentiation for the two predominantly comes from a focus on more of a global perspective. You see, the Parkland high schoolers really being kind of activists and coming out for what is happening in their state. You see the kids in high school right now in Europe, Belgium, France, in Australia, they're coming out for pressuring their governments for global warming. So there's a perspective that's more globally focused than I think the millennials are. So as we begin to cater to that population in terms of employment, I think they're going to be focused more on, more things that are globally based than just what is it about me and my particular career.
So I'm going to ask Jason, because we were at a board meeting with Jason earlier this week, and one of their main investors, who you would all know if I said his name, said something to the extent of, we'll just have so-and-so DM so-and-so, and then we'll get the investment, and that'll close the deal. If you don't know what DM means, that's a direct message on Instagram.
With a Gen Zer, by the way, right?
Yes, that's right.
So, is that the future of business as we know it?
Yeah, so our founder and CEO of the company, Robert Thieves, he's 26. He was a former Call of Duty professional player. He's probably the most famous Call of Duty player ever. And he doesn't use email. And when I talk to him, I have to text him or basically message him on WhatsApp. I think that's basically how I talk to him. Everyone I think I've been skewed because prior to working at Thieves, I worked at Riot Games, which is right down the street. We're at the large video company, company Legends. And everyone who wanted to be there, really wanted to be there, and they were willing to do anything to be there, right? So there was a lot of people who were passionate about video games. Same thing where I'm at right now, under Thieves, where everyone's really passionate about esports, the gaming industry, lifestyle, entertainment. So maybe I have a skewed view of what it means to kind of work with millennials, because everyone really wants to be there. But yeah, the way we communicate, like Slack is really big. We and I use it a lot at like Riot Games. But here at the company, underneath, like we don't use it at all because a lot of our players, players and streamers who are like 21, 22, they hate using Slack. They think it's like the worst tool ever. We use this tool called Discord, which is like a messaging system that's pretty highly valued. But yeah, they just love using different tools, different ways to communicate. It's like, I don't even know how to communicate with them. Sometimes it's like, I can send you a DM through Twitter or Instagram, or send you a WhatsApp message, or send you a text. Or emails, like email Slack is like probably the worst way to talk to people.
So for Tim, for those of you who don't know what Headspace is, I tell him this every time I see him. He's really sick of it. It's one of my favorite apps. It's a meditation app. So if you aren't meditating, you should be. It's like an Instagram thing. So at Headspace, just given the culture of the company, given the nature of the business, is the millennial mindset different? And do you think that the popularity of meditation apps like Headspace and Calm have really come because of this focus in our culture on immediate response and instant messaging and all of this kind of instant gratification? Do you think that's one of the reasons that Headspace has become so successful in such a short amount of time?
Well, I think for our millennial workforce, we are a company that is 95% in the millennial age range. I'm the outlier by about 30 years. And that's really cool for me because I had a mindset going into the millennial workforce that it was going to be a certain way. And it actually wasn't. I think the millennial workforce are very mission-driven, and we're in a company that is a very mission-driven company. We're very much about the health and happiness of the world. That's on our wall when you walk in. It's our touchstone. What was the direct question? Millennial, but...
Well, do you think just because, I mean, right now we're in this culture of you have to respond to if you ever respond to an email within 2 hours, you must be dead. And I'm going to send you a text, if you don't respond to that in 15 minutes, like, where are you? So do you think the popularity of Headspace and the really extreme growth you've had is partially in response to the kind of culture we're in from a business standpoint?
Absolutely. When people talk to me about how Headspace has helped them, it helps them, and what we try to get you to do is to take 15 minutes, 10 minutes a day, where you just shut everything off. And it's weird that it's a technology and it's an app that makes you do that. But our co-founder, Andy Putnam, is a Buddhist monk. He was in the monastery for 10 years. He takes all those principles and teachings and he simplifies them and applies them to everyday life. And through that guided meditation, it gets you to just shut down. We also have some other products like our sleep app and some other things that are also beneficial. But I think we are being successful because technology is enforcing itself onto all of our lives in ways that we're not quite ready to cope with. So I think that's the driver.
Let's talk about me.
Exactly.
Also a very common thing. I use Headspace a lot, not to sleep. I actually have a CBD cream that I found a couple months ago to change my life. So let's talk about that. A lot of what we talk about, we have the great pleasure of working with Weed Maps. Thank you. And a lot of what we talk about actually has to do with compliance and where the industry is going. We are doing quite a bit with them on the real estate front, but one of the biggest drivers of it is compliance and is kind of where the industry is going next. There's a lot of, I think, confusion, misunderstanding, and interest and intrigue in where it's going. We have an election coming up in the next couple of years. I'm not sure if that's something that's talked about or not, but is that something that... how do you guys look at that? How are you looking at kind of your technology, but you're associated with an industry that's brand new, with a government that it may or may not change in a couple of years? How are you looking at sort of compliance and how are you sort of looking at compliance and kind of where it's going and kind of what the plans are going forward based on government regulation and where are we going from here?
Sure. But by show of hands, is there anyone here who's not familiar with Weed Maps? Don't be embarrassed. Okay. Never had the DEA knocking on your door then. So Weed Maps is basically an app. We are a SaaS and technology company. At the end of the day, we focus on the cannabis sector, but we are not a cannabis player in the sense that we don't own, promote, we don't own or produce, manufacture any type of product. So we essentially provide the tech infrastructure to connect end users with dispensaries and doctors, things of that nature, for people to get medicine, if it's medicinal, or those that want to get adult use or recreational. So that in a nutshell, I've done my commercial for Weed Maps. You can download it in the Apple Store and Google. But in any event, insofar as compliance, and that's a great question, because this is an industry that maybe 3, 4, 5 years ago was still kind of in the shadows in some respects, and it's only been recently with a lot of momentum through passage laws at the state legislatures across the country, where the social acceptance of legalization of marijuana and cannabis-related products has really caught on. What's really been interesting is to kind of see at the federal level the nuance between the laws there as it relates to the state and local level. As you know, cannabis and marijuana is still a Schedule I narcotic under the Controlled Substances Act, and so insofar as that's concerned, it's still prohibited at the federal level. Under the Obama administration, they authored what's called a Cole memorandum, which essentially was a pact between the government agencies to not use federal dollars to enforce federal legislation in states where cannabis was legal, either medicinal or recreational or otherwise. And so, fast forward to the Trump administration, Jeff Sessions, when he was the Attorney General nominee, agreed to go along with the Cole memo. When he became the Attorney General, he had it rescinded, although the deputies and the U.S. attorneys are still kind of operating on the premise that the Cole memorandum is still in effect, and so there still is what we call prosecutorial discretion with respect to how the laws are enforced. Now, that being said, we've seen a number of ballot initiatives, even this last election cycle, where some other states have passed measures to legalize cannabis, either for medical or recreational use in their states. And so the social acceptance and the momentum that goes along with that continues to increase. But the challenges that it poses, working in the industry that's still, for all intents and purposes, still prohibited under federal law, poses challenges for a number of things like banking, just regular commerce. And so for us, we closely watch the legislation as at least it pertains to the banking industry. And there's been a lot of activity both at the federal and the state levels to kind of loosen up the laws with respect to banking to allow businesses that function in the cannabis space to have access to banking. And for reasons that you might not probably appreciate too much, if you're dealing with an all-cash business, you can imagine that would pose considerable security concerns, particularly handling large sums of cash at any given time. For our customers, the dispensaries that are buying our services or products on our platform, dealing with large sums of cash can pose problems for them. And so the laws are nuanced, but we have a very functioning and thriving government relations and policy team that works with legislatures at both federal and state and local levels to kind of help navigate laws to open up the industry, not just for people who are users of cannabis, but for other providers along the supply chain and service industry.
So talking about compliance, talking about security, I don't know if anyone has a ring at their house. I have 3. Don't ask why. But with this extreme access to information and, between video that Ring has and, the fact that I talked to my girlfriend about a sweater and then it showed up on an ad. You can talk a little about Ring and what you guys are doing, but also will there be a ring of personal security? Like, where is Ring looking to any of that, or talk just a little bit about that?
Sure. So I think it's a little bit legally enforced in the sense that, as probably a ton of folks here know, if you have any sort of website for your business, the EU is way ahead of us. GDPR, which is your general data privacy something. So So GDPR required all of this privacy regulation, and you had to get compliant quickly. I think there was a little bit of leeway there, but really there is a lot of consumer privacy data regulation at play that you have to be sensitive to, and I think we don't even always appreciate what constitutes consumer data. And a transaction ID, even without the name attached to it, even without the actual address information attached to it, can be protected consumer information. So there definitely are regulations out there. In terms of what that looks like on a go-forward basis, I think you have a balance between wanting to do what you want to do. For example, interact with your neighbors on the Ring app or through Nextdoor and share things. That is your choice to share things. But I think we operate in this space where what does that mean if you're sharing it and where does that go? Do you not care? I'm weird. I don't care. I'm literally like, fine, like read my text. But my mother operates in a completely different space of like, put a sticky note over the camera on your computer, even when your computer's not on, so that nobody can, violate the Patriot Act and see what you're doing. It doesn't cross my mind. So I think it is this odd space of consumers can elect into various things, but what is that methodology for electing in? Do you need to now populate that thing that says, we are storing your cookies, do you agree to that in order to shop on the Rag & Bone website? And when you actually do a survey of that, I think everybody says yes because they want to continue on to that website and do what they were planning to do, but is it a thoughtful yes or no? Unclear. But I think there is, I think people who are sharing videos and saying this guy stole a package from my front door, heads up neighbors, I think that arena people are comfortable with. I think in terms of your personal information, your name, what you purchased, where you've been, that may be the more sensitive area, and I'm not sure how that ultimately develops, because that's a lot of revenue generating business there to access that information. So it's an interesting space, but the US certainly hasn't done as much about it as some of the foreign jurisdictions have, so we may be late to the game there.
The way that we we operate in general right now, the way we even ring a doorbell, right, is different than it was 5 years ago. The way that we buy a house, the way that we get a cab, the way that we date, taxi, whatever, Uber. I mean, the way that we get it's a taxi, whatever. The way that we get a ride share, thank you. You know what's funny? Every single year, Jen finds a way to make fun of me for not being a millennial, because I always thought I was. And this was her time this year. Good for you. It's over. What industry do we think is next? Everything's being disrupted. The way we do everything is being disrupted. What's coming next, and what should we be on the lookout for?
Well, I think the way we work is really being challenged, only because the workplaces are changing so rapidly to respond to technology and the different demographics and the way people want to work. I think it's a continuum. I think it's happening, and it's going to continue on even quicker because of all the costs associated around housing workers.
I think I have two comments. One, I have an 11-year-old who drops all of her homework through Google Docs and utilizes 3 different apps to access homework, and a high schooler who doesn't have books anymore, and it's all electronic. So I think it's how you study and how you learn. It's impacting everything. I don't think there is an industry that it won't impact. We order groceries online and dog food online, and everything is delivered to us. We can even, try clothes on and put it back in a box and send it back. On the work side for us, for our industry and the commercial real estate side, there's artificial intelligence now that is being developed, and algorithms that our own company has developed that now require no person to do that job. And we see that in every different industry, but even at the very professional, specialized level, I think we're going to begin to see more and more of that. And so we really have to, from a work perspective, begin to consider where are we going 40 years from now? what sort of work are we going to have, because artificial intelligence is really impacting industries across the board, even in specialty, very high-touch industries that exist today.
Yeah, and I think just to speak on the connected home space, I think there's a lot of stuff we think, okay, the connected home, meaning your Alexa or your Google equivalent or whatever you're tapping into that can turn on your lights and speak to you and order your groceries for you. I think it's intended or anticipated to be more prolific and in ways we don't currently imagine organically. For example, a refrigerator that has smart weight shelves that suddenly you're low on milk and something speaks to you and say, would you like to order more milk? You say yes. And I think all of that is really hard to conceive unless you're operating in that industry, but there's a lot going on there just beyond not just the security space, not just the Alexa space, but a lot more to do there. And I think there'll be a lot of efficiencies. And just as an anecdote, a couple weeks ago, somebody at Ring said, do you want to go to Ralph's for lunch? Like, not really, but okay. And so we walked to Ralph's, and he's looking at me, and he's like, I have never seen you uncomfortable, and you're looking around, and you don't know what to do. And I looked at him, I said, I don't go to the grocery store. I said, what? I said, I order on Instacart and Prime Now, and it all comes to me. Like, I don't know how to operate in this environment anymore. And the thought of like trying to figure out like which fried chicken or like macaroni and cheese selection to grab is beyond me. And he still talks about it to this day, like to anybody at work he can speak to. But I think it is interesting, like there's a lot of stuff that you can now automate, and just from like a personal perspective, it's going to get easier and easier, but that also results in the collection of data. So you've got to, weigh those pros and cons.
Our local Gelson's has a wine and a wine bar that has live entertainment on Friday and Saturday nights. Like, so why would you not want to go to Gelson's?
Just so the Rouse and DTLA has that same bar and TV setup as well. See you there, say hello.
For the record, Rachel really was getting fried chicken and mac and cheese. She's not lying about that.
That's what I was looking at, but I opted against everything.
Well, I think for esports, that's been an industry that's changed so rapidly. Goldman Sachs came out with a study just a couple of days ago, which is where those stats came from that I cited earlier. So that's pretty quite crazy. Many of you in this room probably have never watched esports, I'm guessing? Never? Oh, come on.
How many of you have how many of you have kids that watch Twitch? Yeah, exactly. Right.
But to think by 2022 the audience is going to be larger than that of the NFL is pretty staggering in such a short amount of time. So, what do the next few years look like? I've never been around to see the infiltration of sports the way that this is going to happen so quickly. What does that look like?
I think the next few years it's only going to get bigger. I don't know if everyone knows this, but the gaming industry is actually bigger than the music and movie industry combined. A lot of people don't know that, right? But yeah, people love watching other people play video games, whether it's professionally or streaming. So esports is kind of like an all-encompassing term, but it can mean people competing professionally in a league, or someone just like spinning up their cam and just playing the game and talking to the chat. I don't have any kids, but my niece and nephew are like 12 years old, and all they do is watch Twitch, YouTube, and they don't turn on TV. When I was growing up, I used to turn on TV, watch WWE on Sunday night, Michael Jordan, NBA on regular times. But these days, everything's on demand and watching stuff on YouTube and video games, right? And it's an industry that a lot of people don't know about. Like when she asked the question of who watches sports, no one here has watched it, but it's like the future generations, right? I think in 5-10 years, when those kids have grown up to be like 24, 25, 30, what are they going to watch? They're going to watch, let me turn on Twitch and watch people play video games, whether it's Fortnite or whatever else, right? Fortnite's one of the biggest games right now. To put it in perspective, another game just launched recently, 3 weeks ago, it's called Apex Legends. I don't think kids have played it. But that was the fastest growing game in history. They had, I think, 25 million people play the game in the first 2 weeks. That's kind of the size of the audience of people playing video games. And I think it's only going to get bigger. And as the audience grows up, they're going to watch those things versus what we watch now. And I think that's a big indicator of how things are moving.
So kind of the same question for weed maps. Some of you have these questions on your name tags. One of which is, which state will be the next to legalize cannabis? And so we're talking about 2022 for esports. Will cannabis be legal at the federal level? Will we look at cannabis like we look at alcohol now, where we say, go grab a drink, and it's go grab a gummy bear? I mean, is that the trajectory of cannabis?
Yeah, I believe so. Right now, I think by last count, there are 33 states that have legalized cannabis in some form, including the District of 33 states and the District of Columbia. And that is going to only, I think, increase. I migrated here. I'm originally from Texas. I took a job at Wheat Maps last summer. The millennial conversation was really had my head spinning because I came from a law firm, went from being a young partner in a law firm to the old get off my lawn man in the legal department at Wheat Maps. And so that transformation for me has been pretty interesting. But even in my home state of Texas, which is pretty conservative by all accounts, I think the Republican Party last summer during their state Republican convention had a measure that supported legalization by 82%, and that's the state of Texas. This would have been unheard of even 5 years ago, and so I think that as a social acceptance and really more education about cannabis and its effects on the body, the benefits it can have, whether it be in the CBD form, THC, or any of those derivatives. I think that the corollary or the increasing educational component will help advance the legalization in other places. And so it's not well, let me back up and say that there is currently in draft form some legislation at the federal level, the States Act, that was authored by, I think it was co-authored by Senator Cory Gardner from Colorado and Elizabeth Warren, which essentially would remove or exempt from the Schedule 1 of the CSA marijuana in states where it has been legalized. And so that would be kind of the first step into the decriminalization of marijuana. And so to the extent that takes place anytime between now and 2020 and 2022, what happens at the state level the federal level will probably precipitate the balance of the states that have not yet legalized cannabis in any form.
Guys, let's talk about her. She was at the Oscars. You didn't understand a word she said. Do you practice the Marie Kondo method or not?
I'm already a neat freak.
Okay. No, seriously, do you, in that way though, what do you do when it comes to things like that? She's changing the way people look at that. Do you know what the Marie Kondo method is?
Does anyone practice it?
Wait, I want to hear you summarize it.
What is it?
So, in fairness to Jen, because she does this every year, I had no idea who the hell she was 3 years ago. So I can't summarize. Can you summarize it?
Not well.
Yeah, me neither. But I know she told
It's about minimizing, what are the things that you really want in your life, organize them in some manner and get rid of them. She can get rid of the rest, sorry, not get rid of the things that are important.
She categorizes things. So instead of you think of a kitchen or your bedroom or your closet being disorderly, she thinks of things in categories, and she's got a specific methodology of how you organize things. And so the categories are, paper things and sentimental things and miscellaneous things and so forth and so on. But you begin by kind of having an intention of, I'm going to have a vision of what I want my life to be, and I want to organize it in this way. And when you get rid of things, you thank the things for, thank you so much, Scarf. You were there when I was at that panel, and goodbye. And so you are exercising, grace in getting rid of things. So I don't utilize it because I'm a neat freak already, but I really appreciate it. And apparently, the reason why she's so successful is that people who are hoarders a year later continue the practice, and it's really a focus on minimalism. So not only does she have this kind of simple methodology of cleaning your house out, but really believing that once you do, kind of that energy is moved away, and you continue that. And so the success is that it continues. After a year, people come back and it's still clean. So that's it. But I don't know.
She sounds like the next corporate partner for Headspace.
Yeah, that's not me. I can't get rid of anything.
No, the reason we honestly were talking about it is because in the last few weeks, ever since I learned who she was, we've actually had a number of conversations with people who kind of equate that to business and sort of attracting and retaining talent is such a big thing these days. And how do people do it? And is it through giving snacks at meals? Is it through the Google way of just keeping everybody there, no matter what it takes at any expense? And so I was more curious in sort of, she has a different way of doing it. Is there different things that, like, especially all the companies are, all five of these companies are all generally in their infancy right now. Are the things that you're seeing from past experiences, whether it be law firms or larger companies like Riot or Amazon, right, that are different, that are kind of helping attract and retain talent, which is the biggest thing people talk about these days with us?
You forgot her tagline. Does it spark joy?
Does it spark
Well done, Jason. Well done.
Yeah, I'll speak to that question, and I think the answer is yes. Obviously, what is required to maintain talent changes over time. I think the fundamentals remain the same. You need strong leadership, you need a vision, you need managers who are empowered to help you out, but also your own autonomy. But in terms of what attracts folks, yeah, I think it is true that snacks become standard and cafeterias may become standard, but I'm not sure it's limited to that. I think a lot of it is the freedom to work when and how they want, and to work from home on occasion, and to not feel trapped in an environment where they're not being productive. But I think there's a counterbalance to that as well, because I've seen at a former company a lot of young folks who are really smart, but the only way to elevate them in the mindset of the company was to have more people work for them, but not give them any managerial skills, which resulted in a lot of flight and also just HR liability. And I think there's a balance there, which is, yes, you want doers, and you want people to be able to do things on their own time as long as they're getting it done to the caliber and in the time frame required. But you also want to instill the corporate culture of mentorship and leadership and helping them become leaders, because you don't just want a large number of doers with different titles. And I think that's been something that they will start focusing on and realize that that's attractive beyond just the snacks and the fun corporate events.
What about for you guys? I mean, there's so many young people. You have sort of two types of employees, really, because you have the players and then you have the staff, right?
Yeah, I'm the oldest person in the company, so I've been perspective, and I've worked at Riot, where they had everything for free. We had like a nice coffee shop. We had like food. We had the biggest commercial kitchen on the west side to feed employees. We had like 2,000 people per day. So I have a different view of like how many perks are. Yeah, 100 days we work out of the we work in Culver City, so we don't provide
For now.
Yeah,
This way.
we don't provide any snacks, or we even have a 401k until like starting up next month. We don't have any perks. People love working at the company because like we give them a lot of autonomy and give them a lot of freedom to do what they need to do, and it's just upon it's like giving them the freedom to do what they need to do in their job, and autonomy and like a sense of purpose. And I hired someone from Deloitte, and she always asked me for my feedback, or can I send this out, can I do this? I'm like, hey, just send it out. I trust you. Just you know what you're doing. If you didn't know what you're doing, you would ask questions. And, I think that's what gets people excited to work at the company. And it's not none of the free perk stuff, because we have none. We have zero. Other than they get to hang out with a couple of professional streamers and players, which some people might be like, oh, I could care about that.
Marlon?
Since that's another interesting question because I contrast that against my former life where came from a very traditional. I was a hiring partner at 2 firms before I joined Weedmaps, and one of the things that I came to appreciate from those roles was law firms lie, shocker, about culture. I mean, law firms would typically sell recruits and recruiting on 3 things. I call them 3 C's. It was culture, collegiality, and collaboration. Not surprisingly, a lot of lawyers like to think that we're cool and think that we're hip and easy to get along with, but that's not the case. And so I think that the current trend right now, particularly with millennials in the workforce, is seeing a lot of attrition earlier on careers, whereas in the past, the people that I grew up training under spent 20, 30 years at the same firm, and that's no longer the case now. And the thing you come to see with the younger generation, if they're dissatisfied with their quality of life as it relates to work, they have no problems leaving or problems checking out and finding somewhere else that will make them happy. So fast forward to where I am now at Weedmaps, where I am, like you, Jason, on the older end of the employee spectrum, and also that's you as well, Tim. And now, we were currently hiring for a position there. We were interviewing for it not too long ago. And we had a candidate come through that people were a little lukewarm on, and I caution against making a rush judgment because in my experience, you make one bad hire, and particularly in companies as small as ours, it can quickly poison the well. And I told them that the first thing to go would be morale, and the second thing to go with a bad hire are people. And so keeping that in mind, and good people are hard to replace. And so what we've done is try to make a concerted effort to preserve a culture of all the things we talked about, of the collegiality, the collaboration, the flexibility to allow people to work and treat them as professionals and trust them to get the work done, however, on whatever terms they need to, but, making sure that it's convenient for everyone on their respective teams. But I do think a concerted effort going towards understanding your personnel and understanding the dynamics within your workforce, and then essentially making policies that can kind of encapsulate as many of them as possible.
Sarah Soli, anything to add that hasn't been touched on?
Rachel had a really good point about managers. So I think because I'm in HR, it starts with recruiting and really finding the right candidate isn't just finding someone that has a nice resume and has all the background and the skills that we think we want. It's really assessing whether that person fits in well within the organization and the strategy of the company and their role, and identifying where they want to go and what is their path. But I think she touched on something really important, which is the manager. As companies grow and top performers perform well, they're given more and more tasks to do. And we have, there's a law that you have to have a harassment training if you're of a certain size, and we kind of incorporate all of these things because we have to. One of the things that is really important is to mentor and coach managers so that they could be good mentors and coaches to their team and to give them the resources that they need to do that successfully. If your managers are not good managers, 65% of people are going to leave their job no matter what perks and flexibility and whatever you pay them if they hate their manager. Their manager can make it successful and wonderful, and they will work there for no snacks and for 24/7 if they need to, because they are passionate about the person that they work for, and that is their manager. And if their manager sucks, they're going to leave and they're going to look for something else, irrelevant of how you package them. So it is really important that companies work on developing their managers. And what does that mean? It means whatever is the right fit for the organization.
My biggest instinct is to not yell at my staff for being at work at 8:30. It's like, I'm here at 8:30. Where's everybody? Oh, it's 10 o'clock. Where is everybody? But my biggest instinct is to not do that, right? So, because I'm the old guy. And the young folks, they have their own schedules, and exactly what you're saying. I have to be a better manager and working with them on their terms.
Chris, we're by no means your manager, but how are we doing?
Good.
Okay, cool.
We'll see if I start rolling it in.
I'd be really concerned for the record. So we're here in the Riveter having us. If you aren't aware, The Riveter is a female-focused co-working company. We did 2 locations for them last year when they expanded out of LA, here and in Marina Del Rey. So we're very appreciative of them, and not only because we're here, but because we have to talk about it, and we should be talking about it. But the emphasis on female equality in the workplace continues. As you all know, California is the first state to require females to be on corporate boards. So to all of you, what percentage of your executive team is female? And is that changing? Is it part of the conversation? I mean, I know at 100 Thieves we're talking about making both of the bathrooms for men and building a single stall for women. So I think it was my idea, honestly, but so sorry. All right, they're not doing that. I take it back. But we could just, and this is our last question, and then if you all have questions, I'm sure a lot of you have said you have some questions for the panelists. We'll open it up and then get back to wine.
Hard to say. On the Amazon side, so Ring's owned by Amazon. On the Amazon side, the S team, which is the SVP team that reports into Bezos, 10%, maybe. Arguably similar for Ring. I think that is what it is for the time being, but there's a lot of strong, powerful women in good positions, but they aren't executive leadership positions at this point.
Yeah, so for us, we're a startup. When I joined the company last year, it was like 7 people. So yeah, we don't have any women on the executive team. We guys consider just 3 or 4 of us right now. With that being said, we did make the first hire as a head coach for one of our teams, a woman. We try to diversify the company as much as possible whenever we can. So yeah, we hired some streamers we try to hire as many streamers as we can who are female. But yeah, we try to diversify as much as we can.
How hard is that in that industry? I mean, just naturally.
Yeah, so traditional gamers are what you think of like men, young men, and they're usually pretty toxic. Well, that's the thing. Against like other people who play games, especially if you're like terrible or you suck. But if you're like a woman on playing video game on comms, like people tend to be like really, really toxic, and it's kind of like crazy when you think about those kind of things. I'm like, man, like, did your parents not like teach you right or something? But when you're like behind a computer and a mic, like you might say things that they wouldn't normally say. So, but yeah, like with that being said, like there's a lot of women who watch video games play, and like the industry is growing and the audience is growing, and we try to represent that, whether they're a coach or streamers. But yeah, we don't have any professional players who are women yet, but we would like to.
So this is an area that's near and dear to my heart. So at our C-suite level, we don't have any women yet, which was a huge disappointment to me when I joined the company last June. Although I will say that 43% of the legal department are women. So we are excelling in that respect. One of the things I've tried to do is take a concerted effort with respect to the open positions, and particularly at the senior level that we have. In my most immediate firm, I was over diversity hiring or diversity recruiting, particularly at the partner level for our law firm. As you can imagine, most law firms are notoriously bad about promoting women. So, as a matter of fact, one of the reasons I transitioned out of the law firm into corporate legal department was my frustration at the rate of change that happens inside of the corporate culture within law firms. And so the new law with respect to the women on the boards, I think it's a great initiative, but I do want to suggest that is a bare minimum. And so, in as much as it's going to do a lot of things to open doors and opportunities for women, I would hope that companies would take that as a clarion call to not just do the bare minimum, but try to outkeep their coverage in terms of finding, and if you need help, there are resources out there. I pointed to our management, some organizations that can help us lead them to a pool of candidates that we can choose from. So, and I know that's probably an epidemic within the tech industry itself, but I'm hoping that it's going to improve relatively soon.
At Headspace, we're at the C-suite level, we're at about 25-30%.